All right, well, it's 9 o'clock. We could get started. Oh, let me shut my door. Welcome to the Protect Your Assets webinar. We're going to be looking at building a financial system for your leadership that your team can trust. My name is Heide Olson. I'm the founder and CEO of All-in-One Accounting. And if you're an EOS run company, I'm also the visionary. And I started All-in-One Accounting out of my basement 22 years ago. And the mission of this company is to make the lives of entrepreneurs and nonprofits better through strategic accounting that supports profitable growth, protection of assets, and amplification of impact. So of those three, protecting your assets has evolved the most, and the threat has never been bigger. So we're here to talk about that today. And if I can save one company from falling for one of these tricks, that makes my whole day. So first, let's start with a little history lesson of where we were. So back in 2004, the threat was inside the building. So post Enron, folks were focused on trusted insiders. So we were looking at bookkeepers, controllers, and CFOs who were doing, fake vendor expensing, padding of invoices, and billing schemes. And the fraudsters only needed a badge and a login. So paper checks and manual reconciliations were also a risk, and the defense was internal controls. So that's back when I started All-in-One Accounting. In the late 2000s, money went digital. So online banking, ACH, credit card payments, and the first big data breaches and phishing appeared for the first time. Criminals no longer needed to be inside your company. They just needed credentials. 2010, the outside threat was established. Business email compromise was invented and exploded. Urgent wire fraud from CEOs and hacked vendor bank change schemes. Ransomware became an industry, but this is all still catchable because people had bad grammar, they had the wrong tone, the details were off. And then welcome to today. AI has removed the last safety net for remote. So like for remote work, that has just increased the entire attack surface. AI generated fraud and flawless phishing in your CEO's voice, cloned audio, etc. The threat is anyone now with an internet access. So this whole protection of assets has taken on a whole nother level of intensity. So when fraud hits, it's never just the numbers, it's someone's life's work. So because my mission is to make the lives of entrepreneurs and nonprofit leaders better, it's so heartbreaking to see this. So these are people like me and my parents, my aunts and uncles, and all of you that have poured your whole lives into your businesses, your savings, your time away from your family. But it's not just the owner who pays. Employees lose paychecks, families lose security, and community loses businesses that it counts on. So fraud doesn't steal a line on a page, it steals a life's work. And so that's why it's so important to me that we really figure out how to protect our assets. So nearly 1 in 5 businesses face bankruptcy if they have a major attack. 1 in 5. And 40% say a single 6-digit figure loss would end their business. Wow, we don't want that to happen. So as you grow, so does the cost of one mistake. So every person that touches your accounting or has access to the assets, they need to understand how important their role is. So as you grow, you get more money moving. So more vendors, more wires, more people touching payments. Every new hand is a new point of failure. The bigger targets, criminals research growing companies. A single redirected wire can equal months of profits. And decisions ride on data. Leadership acts on these numbers. If the numbers are not trustworthy, neither are the decisions. So really, internal controls has 2 very important things: making sure your financials are right and protecting your data. All right. This is not rare, and it's not going to shrink, guys. Like this threat becomes bigger and bigger by the day. So $20.9 billion reported to the FBI in cybercrime in 2025. That's up 26% from the year before. Over $3 billion lost to business email compromise alone, with an average of $123,000 per case. So one compromised email, $123,000. I don't know about you guys, but that would definitely impact my bottom line, my margins, and might even, make people negative. So you don't want that. And 85% of losses come from schemes that exploit people. I've heard anywhere between 85 and 90, not the technology. So still the key to protecting your assets is going to be through people. All right. It's still about 90% human error. So train continuously. So I don't know if you guys have this, but we have a monthly training that all of our employees have to take, and it's really important. Sometimes it's kind of simple, but it's just the right reminders and building accountability. Man, that accountability is really strong. So at All One Accounting, not only are you required to take the monthly trainings, but we have secure data policies in place, and it's a 3 strikes and you're out rule. So really, it's so important to us, especially because we're dealing with other people's financials, that we protect their assets. So we are very locked down here, and people, it's on their bonus plan, and you also, like, as I said, 3 strikes and you're out. And know who runs your accounting. If it's insourced, that's great. You have internal controls to apply. If it's outsourced, confirm who owns the controls and how they are held accountable. Okay, so today in this webinar, we're going to cover 3 main areas. The first is tightening your AP process. The second is locking down your systems and identity. And the third is know the latest threats. So there's kind of 3 key components to this webinar. Okay, tighten up your AP process. So this is all about making sure that not one person has authority to do all of the steps in any process in your business. So when I talk about AP, that's where money leaves the building. So this is not only checks, ACH, bill pays, wires. It's the most common and the most expensive door in your business. 2 payoffs to these controls are, again, having clean books so your leadership team can make good decisions, and stopping fraud. And this is truly where you set the tone in your organization. Money should only move when it is supposed to, and all of your internal controls and decision-making should support that. So again, one person shouldn't be able to enter the transaction, approve the transaction, and reconcile the transaction. And as your accounting team grows, you're going to have to really make sure that your internal controls are updated. So again, the complexity of your accounting as you grow your business is going to get even more deep, and you're going to have to really keep an eye on who's making those decisions. All right, this is a big differentiator for us at All One Accounting. Everything that we pay has to be approved with a live conversation. So this is an imperative part of AP internal controls. And what I would say is you put it in writing. First of all, you call your client or whoever's making the decision, the CEO, and you get a verbal confirmation that you can pay these things. And the only exception is if you're using an online bill paying system where the owner or CEO has a login to approve it, but it has to have multi-factor authentication, and the CEO needs to be using a password manager. That, I would say, is the only exception to actually calling up and saying, do I have verbal approval to pay these things? And I would never deviate from this policy because it is saving our clients a ton of money and protecting their assets. So again, get verbal confirmation, follow up with an email, and back it up with a written policy. And the live voice is going to become more important, the face-to-face, because of deep fakes and because of cloning of CEOs. It's happening every day. It's very real. It's amazing the quality of that that is happening. All right. Make this a policy. Verify every bank change and urgent wire by phone. So this is a big trap that the criminals use. Is they get an email from a vendor that says our bank details have changed. Please update before the next payment. It looks normal. You make the change without calling to verify, and now the money is going to the criminal. And this has happened on repeat with our clients where they've tried to do this, and we've been able to stop it by picking up the phone, verifying that the vendor wants to change their bank account. This also is applicable to payroll. So whenever you get a payroll change, I don't know if you've ever gotten that, but an email from an employee saying, I've changed my bank account information, please update it on my payroll. You've got to pick up the phone and call them, because those are some of the most common phishing schemes. And then the other thing is, if the bank is contacting you, you never call the number that they email or text you. You call the number that's on the website. So again, be really smart about who you're calling. Don't just trust the text. Don't just trust the email. look on the website and call the number to the bank. These are really important safeguards. All right, positive pay. Let's talk about positive pay. So honestly, years ago, this feature I would say was really fussy and it was hard to use. But banks have really made this easy and it is so worth it. So positive pay can be for both checks and ACHs. So what is positive pay? A bank service that matches every check and every ACH you issue against a list you pre-approved and submitted to the bank. So unmatched items are held for your review before they clear. So right now, only 35% of businesses use this feature. I highly, highly recommend that you do this today. So this year, positive pay review caught roughly 80,000 in fraudulent account transactions for our clients. Again, telling the bank what you paid, submitting it online, and then they come to you with exceptions. ACH and checks. And it catches what people miss, right? Altered, forged, unauthorized items are stopped automatically before funds leave. And so again, this is one of my first action items. If you don't have this positive pay, call today. Call your bank today and say, I want ACH and credit and check positive pay. It will make a real difference for you. All right. A paper check. Whew, this is still the biggest way that people are stolen from. And I'm still just kind of baffled by people that are still writing paper checks. So ditch the checks, guys. You can go to a secure online payment system. You can do it through your bank. You can do it through ACH, but a paper check hands a stranger everything they need to know about your business. They have your account number. They have your bank's routing number. They have your signature. They can easily copy once they have your signature. And then you put it in the mail for the US Postal Service to deliver. Well, guess what, guys? The FBI and the United States Postal Service are now openly warning that criminals are recruiting postal employees to steal checks. It's happening every single day. So banks filed 682,000 reports last year involving check fraud. 682,000. So again, this is something, guys, that you can eliminate doing today that will really protect your assets. The FBI says this is still the #1 way that people are stolen from, is taking a paper check and copying it, impersonating it, taking all the information. You know, if you go digital, that adds some controls for you, the approvals, the audit trails, permissions are built in, and nothing travels by mail. And you get a record of every time you pay something when you go to an online kind of payment system. Again, my passionate plea to you is to eliminate paper checks. It's just, it's something that we can do today that will really protect your assets. All right, let's talk about locking down your systems and your identity. As CEOs and leaders of companies, there is a giant target on your back, and people are always trying to get at you. So let's talk about multi-factor authentication. This is an absolute have to, you guys. A stolen password, if you have MFA, is no longer enough to get in. So take MFA and get it set up on every place that is offered. Every bank, every credit card, every application, anything that you do internally with your company, make sure it has MFA. And use an app if possible, not just SMSs or texts. So I'd actually look into this. How do people intercept your texts? Well, what they do is they call your phone company and they impersonate you and they get the phone company to unlock your SIM card so that they can take over your phone. So what I would recommend you also do today, if you haven't, is call your phone company and lock down your SIM card. I didn't even know that you could do this until recently, and I learned this from my brother, and I called immediately and had my family, all of our SIM cards locked down. So now no one can actually take over my phone. So then they can't get to my MFA text verification. So again, lock down your SIM card on your phones. And I would require it for the whole team for multi-factor authentication. I would recommend it for everybody on your team. I would also recommend everyone on your team lock down their SIM card. Again, these are some of the checks and balances that are going to help protect your assets. All right, use a password manager. I have a picture here of the post-it method of password saving. I don't know if any of you have anyone in your life who does this, but I have some people in my life that a post-it is their best way to track their passwords, and this is a terrible way to track your passwords. Having a password manager is essential. Now, I know they're not always easy to use, guys. I really do. But getting LastPass or Password Boss or 1Password or any of the really strong ethical companies is a must. So at least then you just need to remember one password to get into your password manager. You remember one thing, the vault handles the rest, and it's encrypted. The other thing is I don't know about you guys, but back in the day when we first started, using passwords 25 years ago, everyone used their dog or their kid or some variation of one word. And so stop reusing the same passwords. Grace 1, Grace 2025. If this leaks, these criminals they can really, if you give them a base password that you kind of use for everything, they can use their systems to crack a code. So don't ever use a password. Don't reuse them. And use a password manager. Again, another passionate plea from me to protect your assets is to use a password manager. All right, this is a big one for all the CEOs and key executives in your company. Freeze your credit. A credit freeze is free, and it only takes a few minutes at each of the 3 bureaus and blocks criminals from opening accounts in your name. So freeze at all 3 credit bureaus. I've got some information at the end of this webinar, and thaw only when you need it. So all of my credits are frozen, and then when I need to open them up for whatever reason, you open them up for a day and then you freeze them again. So let me tell you a story. About a year ago, I was at the gym about 5:30, and I started getting notices on my Apple Watch from US Bank. Thank you for opening up an account with us. Then the second one was, thank you for signing up for online banking. This is, mind you, I'm at the gym and I'm getting these notices on my phone, and everyone that comes, I get more panicked, you guys, because I'm clearly not opening up an account with US Bank. So I get done with my workout and I get home and I call US Bank, and I can tell you they weren't much help. Nobody had any idea what was going on. They were able to locate the all-in-one accounting account that was just opened in my name. And guess what? Someone tried to run my credit so that they could get a line of credit on that bank account. But because my credit was frozen, they were denied. That is what saved me, you guys, from a fraudster criminal opening up an account at US Bank and getting a line of credit in my name and my business name. So again, my passionate plea is to freeze your credit, and I would do it for your whole family too. Like, it can't hurt. Just freeze your credit. It's very, very, very important, and it's very easy to do. It would literally take you 5 minutes today. Okay, in addition to locking down your credit, you should sign up for some kind of identity and credit tracker. So I personally use Identity Guard, and I have for years. There's also LifeLock and Aura. The reason that this is important is this stops accounts up. This tells you if someone's trying to open up an account in your name. The freeze on your credit will prevent someone from taking out credit in your name, but this will show you people that are trying and if someone succeeds. So I monitor this like a hawk, and I get notices throughout the week if they call the dark web, if my information pops up in the dark web. So again, it's a very small amount of money, probably $30 to $40 a month. I actually have my whole family covered, but I highly encourage you to get Identity Guard, LifeLock, or Aura, or another credible identity tracker. All right, show of hands, who has cyber insurance currently, cybersecurity insurance? Excellent. Okay, this is another passionate plea. If you don't have cybersecurity insurance, call your insurance company today and get it. And then I would say also make sure that you have the right coverage. So make sure that social engineering and fund transfer fraud are included, not just data breaches. So this is a really important component. So even if you do have cybersecurity, I would call your agent and just make sure. So again, strong controls will help you lower your premiums with your cybersecurity insurance. So MFA, multi-factor authentication, which we've already talked about, positive pay, which again is telling the bank what they can pay, and verification often reduce what you pay for cybersecurity insurance. So again, my passionate plea is to get cybersecurity insurance and make sure that it covers social engineering and funds transfer fraud. Okay. There is a lot of deep fake happening with voice and videos. And so I would highly encourage you to establish a corporate code word. We did this a couple years ago at All in One Accounting, because I know there will come a day where my CFO gets a video from me asking her to do something with money, wire it, whatever, check, ACH. Her job is going to be to call me and ask me for the code word. If she doesn't know, if I'm not able to tell her the code word, she won't pay anything. So use it for any urgent wire, gift card, or credential requests. They must include the word. Don't share it. Don't even share it online. Share it in a personal meeting. And I update it about once a year. So a shared secret word your team can ask for to prove a request is real. The other thing I would recommend is that you actually do this at home with your family. Have a family code word. So I'm going to tell a little story. I wish that I would have known about this about 20 years ago. My dad does a lot of traveling internationally, does a lot of missions work. And whenever he was out of the country, my poor grandma living on the farm would get a call from someone saying that my dad was in jail. And she was just panicked, right? And they were asking her for money. If our family would have had a family code word, she could have said to this person, this criminal calling her, well, what's the code word? And they would never have known that. And then she could have put, she was so nervous and scared, she could have put all of that at ease and not been bothered. But those are the kinds of things that criminals look for. They look for when you travel. They always hit like on a Friday night or weekend. So you got to be really careful about the time of, the time of the week, the time of year. Around holidays, they like to hit. So anytime that people are kind of checked out, they're going to look to hit you. So again, my fourth passionate plea is that you establish a corporate and personal family code word. It will really save you money in the future. All right, so let's talk about knowing the latest threats. Man, there's a lot of them, guys. These fakes, they look real, and what actually stops it? Let's talk about protecting your assets against these threats specifically. All right, so AI deepfakes, clone voice and video of your CEO. A few seconds of audio of me from a podcast or even from this webinar is enough to fake your voice on a phone call. They need just seconds. That's how sophisticated the technology is these days. Fake video calls. Criminals now can put, synthetic executive on a live video meeting to authorize payments. It's happening. It's really scary. And AI written emails. Generative AI matches your CEO's exact writing style. So remember when I talked about back in the late 2000s how the email phishing started, but that it was not very good. It had the wrong tone, it had misspelled words, it just didn't sound like the person it was supposed to be sounding like. Now generative AI sounds like the person you're impersonating. It just does. Someone can find my emails and sound exactly like me. So my team would think that it was me. So again, these fraudsters are getting more sophisticated and they're leveraging all of this AI to do a better job of stealing your assets. All right. This is a really scary statistic, you guys. 40% of business email compromise messages are now written with AI. 40%. The FBI logged over 22,000 AI-related complaints and roughly 893 million in losses in 2025 alone. Voice cloning and AI-drafted emails are now standard tools for a fraudster's playbook. It's not science fiction anymore, you guys. Like, 20 years ago, I would have said, wow, is that even possible that these things could be happening? But it's very possible, and it is happening at an alarming rate. 22,000 AI-related complaints last year. That's a lot. All right, let's take a look at a case study involving deepfake. So a finance employee at a global firm got an email from the CFO about a confidential deal. They all jumped on a video call, on a live video call, and the CFO and the colleagues all looked and sounded real. Every one of them was an AI deep fake. The result? Convinced by familiar faces, the employee sent 15 transfers totaling $25 million. $25 million from a sophisticated deep fake video setup. That's pretty, I mean, it's impressive. I often wonder what would happen if these fraudsters took all of this energy and put it towards good, you guys. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, so much. I mean, these guys are smart on how they're doing things, and they're here to get us, and there's whole teams of them throughout the world. All right, process. Many of you run on EOS, and those of you that do know that process is one of the 6 key components. This is part of that, and it's ultra important. So training people to spot the deep fake is a losing game. It's just going to get better. It's going to get harder to identify. The technology is so good already. The defense is not sharper eyes. I mean, that's part of it. We need to train our team and we need to be very aware, but it's all about the process. And if you have good processes in place that protect your assets and you don't deviate from them, you will be able to protect yourself against these fraudsters. So again, it is a rule that no urgent payments or banking changes move without a callback to a known number and or a corporate code word. Process does not get fooled. Process is so much smarter than us, you guys. It is so much smarter at protecting our assets than the human is. So let's talk about what All-in-One Accounting has seen this past year. So about a year ago, one of our clients incurred, it was a nonprofit, and they had about $800,000 of wire fraud, and it was a deep fake situation between the executive director and the bank. Well, here's what happened. Our accountant saw something weird on like a Friday afternoon in the bank and thought, well, this is kind of weird, and contacted our controller on that account, where our controller happened to be out of town. So needless to say, this wire fraud happened starting Friday and some over the weekend, and by Monday morning, the client had lost $800,000. When I found out about it, I said, we have to do something to stop this, guys. All of our clients, we have about 500 clients, small businesses, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits. We have to do something to protect them. So by the end of that week, we had what we call our code red alert system. So at this company, my 140 team members, accountants, controllers, and CFOs, if they see anything with a client, anything suspicious, a weird email, a weird request from a CEO, something in the bank, they have 15 minutes to call into All-in-One Accounting and get help. In 1 year, we have had over 80 phone calls from our team that we have stopped all of those threats. We have protected $1.5 million plus of our clients' assets, and we have lost 0 on the top exposures. So let me tell you a couple of those instances. So we had a vendor impersonate via a hacked email. The potential loss was $475,000. We were able to stop that immediately. We had a $280,000 attempt at an ACH payment diversion, and this was caught by verbal verification. We had a compromised bill pay system that could have resulted in $102,000 of fraud. And in this case, we were using bill pay, and the CEO logged in. He was not set up on MFA, and someone got his credentials. So we set up the payments. Someone logged into the bill.com system, changed where the payments were going. Then the CEO logged in because he didn't have MFA on his account. It had been compromised, logged in and was going to approve it. And our accountant ended up catching it. So again, that just shows again how important MFA is and how important it is that you follow your process to the letter. And then just fraudulent account transactions, about $80,000 were caught by positive pay reviews. So all of the tools that I've talked about earlier in this webinar, they are all in place that helped us save our clients over $1.5 million in 1 year. We have someone running the system now that told me in the last 7 days he's gotten 9 code reds. So that's about 1 every other day from our clients. I'm not sure who's doing your accounting, guys, but what I would say is, like, I want to make sure someone is protecting your assets and someone has got a keen eye on this. So this might be worth a conversation with your accounting team around, like, what are our processes? What are we doing to protect our assets? And what do we do if we see something? Like, the time to react to something weird and seeing something weird is imperative. The faster that we can act, the faster that we can stop the bleeding. And I'm telling you guys, fraudsters start with one amount and they'll keep going if we don't stop them. So again, take a look at your systems. Make sure your accounting has got great, very, very tight processes, including all the things that I just talked about, and know what to do if you have a problem. Call your banker, your insurance agent, your IT company. They should all be partners in this, but specifically your accounting team. They are the ones that really hold the key to most of this. All right, as I mentioned earlier, the same controls that I've been talking about do both jobs. So segregation of duties, reconciliation, and audit trails give you the numbers you can act on. So actionable insights with your financials are so very important. Having these processes in place will ensure that you have accurate financials and you have trustworthy books. And it will help protect your assets. So those exact same controls are what stop wire fraud, CEO impersonation, and deep fakes. So this is the foundation behind real traction, accurate data, money that moves only when it should, and the value that stays secure. All right, so this is your action worksheet. Number 1, MFA on every single account that it's offered. Your email, banking, retirement, every single app that you have. Please engage with MFA. And if the app or vendor or bank, I can't imagine a bank wouldn't have MFA, but you might want to reconsider if they're the right place for you to be. MFA is just a have to, guys. I would review everything today that you log into on a consistent basis. The bank, your credit cards, all your apps, and your email. I don't know if you use SharePoint. MFA should be established on all of those. Second, freeze your credit. This is so easy to do. You can do it online with the credit bureaus. You can call them. It is free. And I'm telling you guys, per my example that I used earlier, had I not had a freeze on my personal credit, a fraudster would have taken out a line of credit at US Bank in my name. And that would have been a big disaster to try to fix. And they would have had my money. Well, they would have had the bank's money. Anyway, the point is, freeze your credit, all 3 bureaus for you and your key executives. And I also do it for my family, because I figure if I have a target on my back, my family probably does as well. I'm going to add to this. This is not on this action worksheet, but lock down your SIM card. This is very easy to do. You can likely do it online. I use Verizon. I'm able to do it online, or you can call them. Lock down your SIM card so that someone can't take over your phone and therefore get your MFA information. Even better would be to use an application, an authentication app like Microsoft or Google, whatever works, but that's even better than getting a text message for that MFA. All right, positive pay. I know I asked earlier, some of you raised your hand, but if you do not have positive pay for both your checks and your ACEs and your ACHs, call the bank today and just say that I would like to set up positive pay for all checks and ACH that come out of my company. It is very easy to do, guys. Now you usually upload it to your bank, Excel doc or some other format, and then you only manage the exceptions. But that's also the key, guys, with positive pay. You need to manage the exceptions well. So whoever that person is on your bank account that is managing the exceptions, they have to really have a keen eye and really be looking at things. Identity and credit monitoring. Again, locking down your credit's great, but you also need to monitor your identity and your credit. Set up alerts, identity guard, LifeLock. I get them all the time. I really keep an eye on that stuff to make sure no one's opening an account in my name, that no one has added any deeds or any real estate things to my credit. It's really helped me over the years. A password manager. How many of you use a password manager? Excellent, excellent. And I know they're not always easy to use, guys. Sometimes I get a little irritated with mine, but the reality is the protection that it affords me is worth the additional work. The days of the Post-it notes or it being underneath your keyboard or even an Excel spreadsheet, I mean, I just kind of cringe because if someone gets that Excel spreadsheet, if someone gets your stack of Post-its, they're going to get into your accounts. A password manager is absolutely necessary. And one of the easiest actually password managers that I recommend for my family is we just use the one on the iPhone. It's a way that I can share passwords with my family and they can also be protected and it's easy to use. So that's another thing I would consider with your families is to actually use the iPhone password manager. And finally, cybersecurity insurance. Again, make sure you have it and then ask 2 questions. Does it cover social engineering? And does it cover funds transfer? You need to make sure it covers both those things. And again, if you are doing all of these other things, that is going to buy down your premium on the cybersecurity insurance. So they're looking at you and your behaviors. Are you keeping educated? Are you using MFA? Do you use positive pay? Do you have identity and credit monitoring? All of those things they're going to look at to determine your premium. All right, well, that is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to answer any questions that you have.
Hi, Heidi. There was a question in the chat. I'm not sure it got answered. I think it was, but maybe you can help us. Brandon asked us, way earlier when you started talking about the voice, he mentioned, was it the voice from the bank or a voice from the invoicing company?
Oh, on the wire transfer for that nonprofit, it was a voice of the bank calling the executive director. Well, no, I'm sorry. They made a deep fake of the executive director that called the bank. Yeah. $800,000. Now they ended up getting it all back in this case. But again, this was a real call to action for me because time is of essence. You've got to jump on these things immediately to stop what could continued erosion of, they do one wire, they're going to do another one. So if you can catch it right away, so very, very important. Time is of essence.
Yes, we totally agree. I don't know if there's another question, but I'm going to tell you what happened at TPR. We trained everyone. We have, we had all the steps, but guess what? We had a newcomer and we were in the middle of the onboarding. And guess what? We followed the process, we followed everyone. And somebody actually, because they were super new, it was like the 3rd day or something, and they knew it. They saw a new, a new email address, and that it was easy as that. For us, it was, a blind, set. There was no one to know. Nope, like just a new email address, and that's how that's how they got to us. It was just incredible how like a small window opens hell.
Yeah.
But so we were safe. Nothing happened.
That is so good to hear, and because you had process and internal controls in place. Correct. Right? So what I would say is like I figure everyone's heard about the gift card scam, but it's still happening, you guys. And I can tell you about, I don't know, 15 years ago, I literally had an accountant in the checkout line at Cub call the office and say, I'm at Cub getting gift cards for Heidi because I got an email from her. And we were like, no, that is not, don't do that. So, I mean, people go into action if they don't know that this is a scam. The other thing is my daughter was studying abroad in London last year and she had an internship. Her first day of her internship, she called me, panicked, and said, I just got a text from my boss that I'm supposed to go get her gift cards. This is my daughter in London that has an internship that gets the, what I think is like the oldest trick in the books, but she didn't know and she was panicked. So they are looking for those vulnerable starts, right? Anyone who's new, any change of position, any in that they have, because as I mentioned earlier, those internal controls that you have, as you add people, and your company grows, it gets more complex. So to your point, Pi, you added someone to the process. They're looking for any crack in your internal controls because have you reacted quick enough? Have you adjusted your internal controls? Have you trained that person? Very, very important. And again, the dollars get bigger, guys. The bigger you are, the threats get bigger, and the ability to take down a company happens. So let me tell you another story. One of our clients had ransomware a couple of years ago, and it was by a Russian group called Black Basta. They took over his whole system. They shut down his entire factory. They took over his servers. They wiped out all of his equipment. This happened on a Saturday because that's when fraudsters like to attack. The FBI knew about it and didn't let my client know in time, and he spent 3 weeks rebuilding. They asked for $500,000 to release his servers back, which he didn't pay them. And it took him about 2 weeks to get all of his equipment up and running again because they had wiped it all clean. So it's a real threat, you guys. And for that business, I mean, it was millions of dollars of hit, even though they didn't pay any money out just from production. Like they were down because their equipment wasn't working. This kind of stuff happens a lot. Any questions or comments? Like, was this helpful? Did you learn something that will help you protect your assets? Do you have an actionable item from today that you can go? Because like that makes my whole day, you guys. I see how hard entrepreneurs work. I see how hard business leaders work and nonprofits, and to have their assets stolen is just so heartbreaking for me. So, all right.
I think there's someone, yeah. Yeah, they're thanking you. There's so much wealth of information. Heidi, I actually wanted to ask you, we have a lot of international companies. I mean, they do have accounts in the US, but they also have accounts abroad. Is there anything that, of guidance that you can tell all these companies that actually, touch in different countries?
Well, I would say just have all the same things in place and probably even be stricter about it. So, one of the things that's interesting is like just how much you should be leveraging your technology company. So, for example, I'm going to Guatemala on Saturday. If I didn't let my IT company know, there's no way that I would be able to log in or do any work on my computer. However, I have let them know, so they will let me work from Guatemala. But like, and your phone, like make sure that things are locked down to the point that if you don't let them know and you go out of the country, that you can't use your systems. Because you don't want people logging, it should be a huge red flag if someone's trying to log into my stuff from China or the Ukraine or any of these kind of mega centers. Drew, did you have a question?
I did. I want to know if I could add a couple points of clarity on MFA.
Absolutely.
So Heidi, you said something, very good on MFA in that it's not what it used to be, in that you shouldn't just accept a text message, which is table stakes. I think that's better than nothing. But one thing you alluded to earlier was that you should also look to use an authenticator app,
Yes.
which is something to help with another layer of protection. But another thing that you just mentioned that should go along with your MFA is geofencing, which is what the reason you had to go tell your tech company, which is me in this case, that you have to go bypass that is that we have geofencing in place to say, Heidi traditionally works in this area, which you could look her up and figure out kind of where she operates out of. But in the event she goes on vacation or does something fun, she has to alert somebody to get past that geofencing, which is just another layer of security you can add to your MFA. But something as you're thinking through that is, traditional MFA of just text message is not good enough anymore because those cell phones can be spoofed. As Heidi alluded to, threat actors will call your cell phone company, they'll get your number, and that's how they get past MFA and defeat it.
Yeah. That brings up another story. So actually a friend of mine from high school, a couple summers ago, someone took over her phone and her phone went, to SOS mode. And she's like, what's going on? She called, someone had taken it over and then got into their Wells Fargo account and stole $80,000. So it's real, guys. It's real for us as individuals and it's real for us as companies. Like that was the first time I had ever heard of that. And it was so frightening. So I'm like, lock your SIM card today. How many of you have locked your SIM cards? All right. Highly recommend you do it today. And again, I didn't even know this was possible until my brother told me about like a year ago. So it was a big learning for me. Any other examples? Drew, do you want to share any other examples? You're the person who's taken all the calls in the last 7 days. So
yeah, I mean, we've had a lot, and I can tell you the interesting stat of the 40% of that are using AI is going to just catapult forward. Like, I don't think I've seen a single one in the last 2 weeks that weren't written by AI, but very, very sophisticated. I mean, some of these emails that are creating an email chain that look like they're from the existing domain, they're researching your company using AI tools like the same tools we're using inside HubSpot or different social tools for our sales practices. They're using that to understand your environment a little bit better. Who do you do business with? What types of partners do you have? Who works at your company? And they're using that to create that threat intelligence. So that's one thing to really watch out for as you're jumping through that. And I mean, they're getting way more sophisticated, and continuing to train your team is just table stakes.
Thanks, Drew. You know what? Could you speak to the one that happened last week where we were able to save that big amount of money from that ACH intercept or diversion?
Yeah, absolutely. So in this case, we had a client who had an AP invoice sent for spoofing as the CEO's wife. So kind of pulling on the heartstrings, saying this was a big deal. It was for a benefit for his wife. He needed to push through this payment. Hit our accountant, who then, thought it was strange, put it in, messaged the CEO, and worked through it through our process that we have in place, and then that the CEO was like, hey, wait a minute, my wife isn't doing any type of benefit here recently, right? So then that kind of caused that conversation to go back and forth. But the thing is that they're tugging on your emotions, they're working through the things in place. The CEO and our accountant had an established cadence of emails fine for these types of approvals, and they kind of knew that and knew how they were working through it, even though our process deviates from that, which they executed on. So able to learn these things through different emails or phishing campaigns, stuff like that. But these are very, very targeted, sophisticated attempts, and because of that, it was a $50,000 ish AP fraud example.
All right, Pedro's got a question. In a cash pooling system, are there additional procedures to be taken into consideration to avoid fraud? So cash pooling like Venmo, like what do you mean by cash pooling? Or does anyone know what cash pooling is?
I think, Pedro, you can unmute if you would like, or just write it in the chat. Both, like anyone can just unmute themselves and just ask a question. And by the way,
yes, sure. A cash pooling is a centralized treasury system used by multinational companies. So they every day transfer the excess of funds they have in their treasuries to a centralized bank account, which is the head office in the region. So this is the cash pooling.
Okay. Pedro, that's such a great question. I'm not sure that I can speak to that, except for probably all of the other controls that we've talked about, just making sure all those are set up. I do know that this is going to get harder too, as the way that we transfer money, things are going to change, I think, in the next 5-10 years about the way money moves in this country. So I think it'll get even more important that we have these controls in place, is my understanding. I don't know, Drew, do you know much about cash pooling systems?
Only a little bit, probably not as much as you are with it, Pedro, but a lot of it is making sure you have the three-way match in place, and where your money goes in and know when your money comes out. That's a little bit that I've dealt with it. Not a ton of international funds, that perspective.
Thank you.
Are you guys seeing this stuff? Was any of this kind of new news or new schemes, or like, what are your companies seeing and experiencing? Well, Pi, thanks for sharing your example. Again, the simple ones are going to continue. The gift cards and the just trying to get someone new.
We actually got the gift cards last week. Whatever was like, all news. Heidi's got us. You don't know it, but all-in-one accounting has everything in a one-stop shop. I mean, come on, Heidi. You've been, trying to get turn messy books into accounting clarity for more than 20 years. And, great decisions start with data. I know this is, something you always tell people and you show them. And you know what? data, it's not only about, everything, they imagine us in finance, just typing it away. No, data is also sharing it with your family, with your friends, with your clients. And these assets that you brought us today, this information that you brought us today, I think it's the key to actually, staying protected and gaining real traction. Because when those two worlds collide, as you clearly said on that slide, internal controls, finance, accounting, booking, like all that is super important. But now we've escalated into something else, and we really have to pay attention to the details. So at TPR, we thank you kindly, Heidi, because you've opened our eyes to like a new world. Within this year, we've done, a lot of this. It was not there before, and we were, as we're growing, we have become a most constant threat. I mean, it is real, and it comes from the most unthought places, to say the least. And we do have an international group, so of course, they also get good with languages and and voice, and oh my God, they are super good. So like we cannot thank you enough for your expertise and everything that you'd offer us and for our clients, because everyone is raving about the great results. So I just put here in the chat, this presentation, this video, and of course, a chance to book a value session with Heidi today. Maybe you were shy, or right now it doesn't come to you, or maybe you need to share with your team because sometimes they are too shy, right, Heidi? They are too shy to let you know that they were, part of a fraud, or that happened to their family. So once we open the conversation, and we've seen it, right, Heidi? Once you open this conversation, everybody starts to pitch in, and everybody needs help. So this is what we'll do. And of course, don't forget to send us your team members to all the events, because this needs to be heard by everyone, because processes that are not followed by all, Heidi, we all know what happens.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for attending today. I hope you learned something that will protect your assets. Again, if one person, one company is able to protect their assets because of this webinar, then it is a huge success. And that is part of my mission in life, is to help protect entrepreneurs and nonprofit assets. And it's taken on a whole nother level of importance than 22 years ago out of my basement. So, but we're excited to help our clients with this and just share with the world. So thank you again for coming. And I really enjoyed our time together and talking about one of my favorite topics, protecting your assets.
Thank you kindly. We are in awe that you're here with us today and that you share with your expertise with us. Thank you, Heidi, and thank you, Drew, as well.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.